Welcome to the Pencil Bob channel. I hope you enjoy my stories.
The launch pad at Kennedy Space Center glimmered under the rising Florida sun, a gleaming symbol of humanity's return to the moon. In 2035, after 50 years of hesitation, budget disputes, and political wrangling, the world was finally watching a manned lunar mission lift off again. Crowds had gathered on beaches, rooftops, and streets, and newsfeeds streamed live across every device, filling homes, offices, and public squares with the image of Odyssey 9. The spacecraft itself was sleek, utilitarian but elegant, a testament to decades of engineering and automation. Robotic arms clung to its sides, antennas and sensors bristling like an intricate latticework of silver. Inside the command module, Commander Elias Mercer sat strapped into his seat, helmet off, his eyes scanning the control panels. At 42, he carried the weight of experience in his steady posture and measured movements. He didn't speak much. When he did, it was precise and calm. This mission had been his life for the last 5 years. Beside him, pilot Marcus Vail, 38, ran his hands over the touchscreen displays, double-checking trajectories, fuel ratios, and thruster outputs. Marcus had always been meticulous, almost obsessive, a perfectionist in the cockpit, but he carried a natural charm that eased tension among the crew. Systems engineer Tara Singh adjusted her headset, reviewing automated construction protocols for Artemis Base Alpha. At 35, her meticulous calculations and endless simulations had made the lunar base possible. She had fought for every autonomous bot, every modular construction unit, ensuring that the groundwork would be set for permanent habitation. The ship's AI, Ariadne, hummed softly in the background, its voice calm and neutral, reading diagnostics and confirming sequences. Dr. Naomi Chen, 40, sat slightly apart, scanning the lunar deployment schematics for the last time. A biologist by training, Naomi had reluctantly been roped into this mission to monitor environmental variables and ensure the base's construction wouldn't interfere with potential lunar resources. She wasn't thrilled at the idea of leaving Earth for weeks, but the scientific allure had won her over. Finally, Communications Officer Leo Hartman, 33, ran through last-minute signal checks, his fingers flying over the interface as he tested channels, redundancies, and emergency protocols. Leo had a wry sense of humor that lightened the tension, but there was a sharp edge to him. He was the one who noticed anomalies first, who questioned protocols that didn't make sense. The countdown clock ticked steadily, an unrelenting drumbeat. The control room at Kennedy Space Center was a hive of activity, engineers and flight directors scanning monitors, tracking fuel pressures, monitoring weather conditions, and ensuring every pre-flight sequence was perfect. The world's eyes were fixed on a single point, waiting. "Final check, Ariadne," Elias said softly, his voice carrying a calm authority. "All systems nominal," the AI responded. Its voice lacked inflection, but it carried a sense of certainty that belied its artificial nature. "Navigation calibrated. Thrusters green. Life support at optimal levels. Cargo secure." Marcus leaned back slightly, flexing his shoulders. "Trajectory set. Lunar insertion confirmed. We'll have visual of Shackleton crater in 72 hours, give or take." Tara nodded, her eyes flicking between holographic displays. "Bots will be operational within 6 hours of landing. Base skeleton deployment is fully automated. No manual assembly required at first. Everything is on schedule." Naomi's gaze drifted toward the viewport. The sun was a brilliant disk against the blackness of space, the Earth a fragile marble hanging in the void. "Feels surreal," she murmured. "We get one shot at this after decades. And everyone's watching." Leo leaned in, tapping his headset. "They're already calling this the greatest launch in a generation. Every major broadcast network is live, and social media is, well, it's chaos." Elias didn't comment. He had learned long ago that the best way to manage a mission was to manage yourself first. He closed his eyes for a moment, feeling the vibrations of the launch pad through the soles of his boots, then exhaled. "All right, let's make history." The engines ignited, a controlled roar that filled the cabin. The spacecraft shuddered slightly, then lifted cleanly off the pad, ascending toward the stratosphere with an elegant, terrifying grace. Through the viewport, the Florida coastline shrank rapidly, buildings shrinking to miniature shapes, crowds turning into a sea of dots. Elias gripped the controls briefly, then released, letting Marcus steer the initial burn. As the Earth fell away beneath them, tension gave way to a quiet awe. The crew moved through the familiar routine of checks and data logging, each aware of the weight of what they were doing. The moon had not seen a human in decades. And they were going back. Hours passed in the confined module, punctuated by whispered updates and occasional laughter. Marcus joked about how they'd become instant celebrities, already having virtual monuments in media feeds worldwide. Leo countered with comments about hashtags and memes, eliciting small smiles from the others. Yet beneath the humor, there was an undercurrent of unease. Slight anomalies in the instrumentation flickered across screens. Tiny energy spikes, negligible yet consistent, enough to make the engineers glance twice. Tara adjusted the navigation sensors. "It's probably nothing," she said, though her voice lacked full conviction. "Minor fluctuations in the Earth's magnetosphere. Space weather. Expected. Nothing to worry about." Naomi didn't look convinced. She tapped at her monitor, reviewing spectral readings from the Earth. "The glow is slightly different. Dimmer. And the radiation spike from the upper atmosphere, it's subtle, but it's there." Elias leaned back in his seat, observing the Earth. The differences were almost imperceptible, but he could sense them, a faint shift in the familiar color palette of home. He allowed himself the smallest sigh, acknowledging the feeling of unease but keeping it contained. He would deal with facts, not instincts. For now, the only task was to reach the moon safely and deploy the first components of Artemis Base Alpha. Outside the viewport, the Earth spun silently, oceans and continents slowly drifting into night. The stars stretched across the blackness, unblinking witnesses to human ambition. In that vast emptiness, the crew of Odyssey 9 felt both infinitesimal and monumental, the duality of explorers carrying the hopes of their species on shoulders that had grown used to the weight of isolation. And somewhere, in that quiet infinity, a faint pulse of energy passed unnoticed, a ripple across the electromagnetic spectrum, imperceptible yet undeniably there. A whisper in the void that would only be noticed later, after everything had changed. The moon awaited. The surface of the moon stretched before them in endless gray and silver, a stark landscape etched with craters and dust. Shackleton Crater's rim caught the low, angled sunlight, casting long shadows that made the terrain appear even more alien. Odyssey 9 had touched down gently on a plateau near the crater's edge, its vertical thrust system keeping the landing precise and controlled. Dust swirled in small eddies around the base of the spacecraft, stirred only by the landing exhaust. Commander Elias Mercer unstrapped himself first, stepping onto the surface with a slow, deliberate gait. The boots crunched against the fine regolith, each footfall a reminder that humanity's touch was rare and precious here. Beside him, Marcus Vale followed, adjusting his helmet visor and checking sensors. "Smooth landing," Marcus said, letting the words break the silence. "Better than I dared hope." Tara Singh activated the cargo bay. Robotic units, sleek, multi-legged machines with arms that could manipulate and assemble, began emerging. They carried modular components of Artemis Base Alpha, designed to unfold and interlock without human intervention. As the units began their work, Naomi Chen monitored environmental sensors, making notes on soil composition and radiation levels. Leo Hartman, communications officer, checked the data linked back to Earth, even though the moon's thin ionosphere made constant communication more of a challenge than it had been decades earlier. The crew moved methodically, a choreography refined through months of simulation and training. Each person had a role, and each role was crucial. Marcus oversaw thruster alignment for the cargo unit's precision placement. Tara ran diagnostics, ensuring each robotic limb and actuator functioned as designed. Naomi wandered the perimeter, scanning the lunar surface for anomalies, her hand hovering over the portable spectrometer. Even in this controlled environment, she couldn't shake the feeling that the moon was watching. It started subtly. Tiny vibrations underfoot, so faint they might have been imagined. Naomi paused mid-step, adjusting her helmet's audio filter. The sensor registers had been perfectly calibrated before departure, and yet, there it was. A rhythmic pulse beneath the ground, barely perceptible, but steady. She frowned. "Just seismic noise," Marcus said without looking up from his console. "Moonquakes, nothing unusual." Naomi shook her head. "I've never seen anything like this. It's almost organic, like a heartbeat in the regolith." Elias approached, crouching slightly to inspect the readings. "Could be instrument error," he suggested, though he didn't sound fully convinced. "The moon has always been a weird place. We're just seeing it in high definition now." Despite the crew's attempts at rational explanation, the vibrations persisted, subtle yet insistent. Each step across the lunar dust carried that faint, almost imperceptible rhythm, a quiet tension beneath their otherwise meticulous operations. The robotic units began their assembly routines. Arms extended, clamps rotated, and panels unfolded to form the skeletal beginnings of the base. A skeletal frame rose from the surface, geometrically precise yet strangely lifeless against the rugged, irregular lunar terrain. Naomi's sensors continued to flicker, picking up variations in reflected light from the lunar soil that didn't match known spectra. Tara tapped a command sequence, overriding the AI for a minor adjustment. The soil is interacting with the bots differently than predicted, she said. It's subtle, but it's measurable. I'm recalibrating the drills and clamps to compensate. Marcus glanced toward her, eyebrows raised. And, the heartbeat? Naomi shook her head. Not sure. Still there. Doesn't match anything geological. Not meteor impacts, not quakes. I don't know what it is. For a moment, the crew allowed themselves the quiet of the moon, each absorbed in their own thoughts. Earth was a distant blue and green marble, a fragile jewel hanging in the sky above them. Its presence was comforting, yet alien in its distance. They had trained for this, simulated every possibility, but no simulation could capture the feeling of standing on another world, alone, with only the hum of machines and the crunch of dust beneath boots. Night fell quickly. The moon's day-night cycle was longer than Earth's, but the horizon darkened faster than they expected, casting a cold, violet twilight. The robotic units slowed their operations automatically as their energy conservation mode engaged. The astronauts gathered in the lander, preparing for their first lunar night. Naomi looked out at the Earth, its glow faint and oddly dimmer than expected. She adjusted her visor. It's not the glare from the sun, she murmured. Something diffused the light. Marcus chuckled nervously. Maybe the moon is gaining a bad attitude and started filtering Earth's reflection. Leo rolled his eyes, though a flicker of unease passed over his features. It's not funny. The readings are off. Something's different. Elias recorded the day's log. His voice was calm, detached, but there was an undertone of concern. Day 1 on the surface. Landing successful, initial deployment complete. Minor anomalies detected in regolith vibration and Earth's reflected light. No operational issues. Crew health nominal. Base construction proceeding within expected parameters. We'll continue monitoring. As night deepened, Naomi stayed at the viewport, scanning the horizon. A faint shimmer, almost imperceptible, seemed to ripple across the lunar plains. Like a heat mirage, though no heat existed here. Her instincts screamed at her that something was present, something she couldn't yet define. The others had gone to sleep or settled into routines, but Naomi remained, watching and noting, trying to capture what the instruments might have missed. Outside, the robots worked in near silence, tiny lights marking their movements across the gray dust. The skeletal base rose steadily, a human imprint on a barren world. And beneath it all, the moon seemed to pulse, faintly, subtly, like a living thing. Elias glanced at Naomi as she scribbled notes in her digital pad. Get some rest, he said quietly. We've got a long mission ahead, and tomorrow is deployment day. Naomi nodded but didn't move from her post. She felt it in the bones of the lander, in the resonance of the ground beneath them. The moon was alive in some way they didn't understand, and she wasn't sure it would let them leave untouched. The night passed. Temperatures dropped sharply, and the stars shone like polished diamonds against the black canvas of space. The Earth hovered above them, faintly blue, distant yet omnipresent. And somewhere, hidden in the fine lunar dust, the pulse continued. A heartbeat waiting to be understood, or perhaps waiting for them. By the time the crew awoke, the first light of the lunar day touched the edge of Shackleton Crater, illuminating the skeletal base and the robots methodically. Continuing their assembly, Elias gathered the team for a final briefing before deployment day. They spoke quietly, each aware of the enormity of what they had begun. They were standing at the dawn of a new era of human expansion, unaware of the subtle anomalies that would later define their fate. The moon was ready for them. Whether they were ready for the moon, however, was another question entirely. The lunar dawn stretched across Shackleton Crater, a cold, pale light illuminating the skeletal framework of Artemis Base Alpha. The robotic construction units worked quietly, their arms folding and unfolding with mechanical precision. Dust swirled around their treads as they carried panels, beams, and sensors into place. After 2 days on the surface, the moon felt both familiar and alien, a barren landscape rendered almost comforting by the steady rhythm of human and robotic activity. Inside the lander, Commander Elias Mercer checked the mission logs, his fingers brushing lightly over the touchscreen. Every measurement, every deployment sequence, and every minor anomaly had been recorded. He exhaled slowly, trying to push aside the nagging sense of unease that had been growing ever since the first night. The vibration beneath the lander had never stopped. It was faint, irregular, yet unmistakable, a pulse, a rhythm that suggested more than geological tremors. He glanced at Naomi Chen, who was hunched over her portable spectrometer, reviewing the lunar soil readings again. I still don't like it, Naomi said quietly. It's not just vibrations. The spectral readings show subtle fluctuations. Something is off. Marcus Vale, tightening straps around his gloves, waved a hand dismissively. We've landed on a dusty rock in space. It's always off. The instruments aren't lying, they're just reading a lot of nothing. Naomi shook her head. No. The moon shouldn't feel like it's alive, but it does. Even the way the reflected sunlight changed yesterday. It's subtle, but it's measurable. Elias interjected gently. We've got one shot to complete deployment and leave. Track your readings, note anomalies, but don't let them distract you. This is our mission. Focus on what we can control. Tara Singh, crouched over the assembly interface for the bots, tapped a command panel. Deployment is 90% complete. Robots are efficient, but I want a final run-through of the calibration before we pack up. Slight alignment errors could cause cumulative problems later, especially with solar arrays. Marcus glanced at the viewport. The Earth hung pale and distant above the crater rim, its blue and green sheen reassuring, yet somehow muted. Looks normal to you? He asked. Naomi followed his gaze. It's dimmer, like it's been filtered through haze, but there's no atmosphere here to filter it. And the angle of light seems slightly off. Leo Hartman, sitting cross-legged near the comm panel, sighed. We've been monitoring it for 2 days. It's within acceptable variance. You're not going crazy, but I can't fully explain it either. Something's weird, yeah, but nothing catastrophic. Elias nodded. Noted. Keep logs. Right now, focus on preparing for liftoff. We have a window, and we can't risk slipping it. The day stretched slowly. The crew methodically finished the final tasks, double-checking the bot's work, verifying the modular panel's placement, and ensuring all the deployed sensors were transmitting accurate data. Tara adjusted a robotic arm with surgical precision, smoothing a misaligned beam into place. Marcus ran thruster checks on the lander, ensuring the vertical lift system would function flawlessly for ascent. Naomi collected soil samples from near the crater rim, sealing them carefully in containment units, while Leo ran one last diagnostic sweep of the comm array. Even as the work progressed without incident, a quiet tension lingered. The moon had its own rhythm, one the crew couldn't ignore. Instruments picked up slight, repetitive vibrations deep within the regolith, and Naomi's spectrometer continued to note subtle light shifts from Earth's reflection. The moon was whispering secrets the crew couldn't yet interpret. By the late lunar afternoon, the base's skeletal structure was fully operational. Robotic arms retracted, their panels folded neatly into standby positions. The final solar arrays were deployed, their mirrors glinting in the low sunlight. Artemis Base Alpha was ready to begin its autonomous construction phase, awaiting the arrival of the main cargo mission. Elias gathered the crew in the small briefing area of the lander. Deployment is complete, he said. All systems nominal. The robots will continue work on their own. Our primary mission here is finished. Tomorrow we return to Earth. Marcus smiled, tension easing slightly. Feels surreal. 50 years since humans last set foot here, and we're the first to do anything permanent. Not just a footprint, a skeleton of civilization. Naomi remained quiet. The moon doesn't feel neutral. Something is under the surface, and we've only grazed it. Leo leaned back in his seat. You've been watching too many old sci-fi movies. The moon is just a rock. Naomi's frown lingered, her eyes flicking to the viewport where Earth rotated slowly. We'll see. I can't shake it. That night, the crew took turns resting, rotating shifts to maintain observation and security. The lunar nights were long, stretching shadows across the crater, and the temperature plummeted far beyond anything they'd felt on Earth. Inside the lander, the hum of machinery and the occasional mechanical click of the bots outside were the only sounds. Naomi stayed awake longer than the others, reviewing her notes and staring at Earth. It was faint, hazy, and almost eerily still. She adjusted the spectrometer, ran a few quick simulations, and frowned. The reflected light from the planet was slightly off spectrum, a subtle variation that shouldn't exist. She shook her head, knowing that reporting it now would only add worry and distraction. For now, she wrote the observations in her digital pad, saving them for later analysis. Marcus, restless in his sleep, murmured about missed trajectories and possible miscalculations, while Elias kept a careful watch on both crew and instruments. There was no immediate danger, no imminent threat, but the moon had a way of humbling even the most prepared explorers. As the first light of the lunar day began to touch the crater rim again, the crew awoke to prepare for departure. Checks on the lander were repeated, thruster systems verified, fuel readings cross-checked, and all robotic systems set to autonomous standby. Every detail had to be perfect. There was no margin for error on the return flight. Tara activated the ascent protocols for the lander. All systems green. Thrusters ready. Autonomous sequence verified. No deviations detected. Leo double-checked the communications link. Houston will have us online once we break lunar orbit. Comms should be stable. Everything nominal. Elias gave a final nod, feeling the weight of the mission pressing on him. Let's get home. Keep your focus. And remember, anomalies or not, we leave nothing undone here. Every measurement, every observation, every sample. We do this right. As the crew settled into their seats, strapping in for the ascent, Naomi lingered for a moment, staring at Earth. There was a strange stillness in the reflection, a subtle shift she couldn't define. She whispered softly, almost to herself, "I hope we're ready for what comes next." The engines ignited, sending vibrations through the lander, stirring lunar dust into spirals around the base. For the final time, the moon receded beneath them, a gray expanse of craters and dust fading into the black void of space. They were leaving behind the first permanent trace of human civilization on the moon, yet the faint pulse beneath their feet followed them, invisible, inscrutable, and persistent. And far above, Earth waited, silent, distant, and, as Naomi sensed, subtly change. The ascent from Shackleton Crater was smoother than anyone had dared hope. Odyssey 9 rose vertically, the lander's engines humming a steady, controlled vibration through the cabin. Outside, the moon's gray plains receded, its skeletal base reduced to a network of dots and shadows. The crew watched silently, each absorbed in their thoughts. The mission's critical phase, the lunar departure, had gone flawlessly. Yet, a quiet tension lingered, subtle and persistent, like a shadow at the edge of consciousness. Elias Mercer adjusted his seat restraints, glancing at the trajectory readouts. "Navigation is stable," he said. "All systems nominal. Thrusters functioning within expected tolerances." Marcus Vail tapped the console, scanning the readouts again. "We're on schedule for Earth interception. If all goes well, we'll break lunar orbit in 30 minutes and start the transfer burn." Tara Singh's fingers danced over the diagnostic interface. Life support, fuel, and thermal readings all green. Autopilot is synchronized with trajectory controls. The bot's data relay shows no deviations in base construction. Naomi Chen, still uneasy, traced her fingers across the spectrometer panel. "I've got minor fluctuations in electromagnetic readings," she said quietly. "Not catastrophic, but consistent." Something passed through the lunar vicinity, a surge of energy. Leo Hartman, sitting near the comm panel, glanced up. "Minor bursts. Likely cosmic rays. Nothing unusual for this altitude. Solar activity is nominal. You're overthinking it." Naomi didn't respond. She knew the moon had been subtly wrong. Vibrations beneath the surface, strange reflections from Earth, fluctuations in soil readings. But this was different. The instruments were now showing a sudden spike in energy levels, brief but distinct, passing through the ship in a ghostly pulse. "Spike?" Elias asked, narrowing his eyes. "Milliseconds," Naomi said. "Energy signature unrecognized. Not solar, not cosmic radiation. Unknown origin. Could be spatial anomaly. Could be nothing." Marcus chuckled, but it didn't carry conviction. "Could be nothing. Could be everything. That's space for you." The crew continued their ascent toward lunar orbit, checking and rechecking the thrusters, fuel cells, and navigation systems. The Earth grew larger with each passing minute, a fragile globe suspended in the void. Yet subtle anomalies persisted. The atmospheric light scattering appeared inconsistent with historical data. The orbital projections showed minor deviations that should have been impossible to calculate. Leo tried the communications link with Houston. "Telemetry normal," he said at first. "Connection stable. We should get a window for a full update shortly." Then the static began. A low, crackling distortion flickered through the comm panel. Leo's fingers flew across the console, adjusting frequencies, resetting the amplifiers. "Comms are dropping," he said, voice tight. "Signal intermittent. Getting bursts of noise, then, nothing." Elias' jaw tightened. "Diagnostics? All systems nominal," Tara said. "No hardware faults. No power drops. The AI confirms the link is stable." Naomi's spectrometer pulsed again. "It's the anomaly," she said quietly. "It's interacting with our communications. The energy spike, whatever it is, passes through the ship and disrupts electromagnetic systems." Marcus frowned, gripping the control interface. "So, we're just supposed to ride it out?" Elias exhaled slowly. "We follow protocol. Maintain trajectory, maintain life support, and maintain communication attempts. Houston will be there when we break orbit." Yet, Houston wasn't there. On Earth, in the sprawling nerve center of NASA Mission Control, alarms blared. The large tracking screens that displayed telemetry from Odyssey 9 suddenly flickered and went blank. Flight directors scrambled to find any signal, scanning every available satellite, triangulating coordinates, and monitoring global comm networks. "Where is it?" one technician shouted, voice tight with panic. "It's gone," another replied. "We've lost the signal completely. No telemetry, no tracking. It's like it vanished." Back on the spacecraft, the crew stared at their instruments. Odyssey 9's position, once precisely plotted against known coordinates, now displayed a small, unexplainable shift. The ship's trajectory appeared slightly offset from Earth's gravitational vector. Calculations indicated they should already be entering the transfer orbit. Yet every reading conflicted. Marcus tightened his grip on the controls. Something's interfering with navigation. We're not where we should be. Or we can't see where we are, Elias said. His voice carried a steel edge, a command to hold their focus. Tara, give me a full diagnostic of thrusters, fuel, and AI trajectory calculations. Naomi, check the spectrometer and the energy surge log. Leo, keep trying every channel. Minutes passed, each stretching unbearably long. Leo sent signal bursts, tried retransmissions, and amplified power output, but the comm panels only spat back static, occasionally interrupted by faint, garbled fragments that resembled their own voices distorted, like echoes through a metallic tunnel. Naomi frowned at her data. It's more than an energy spike. Something is bending space, electromagnetic fields, light, the instruments aren't wrong. It's the environment. It's change. Marcus laughed, a short, bitter sound. Changed how? We're not in Earth orbit yet, and we're not on the moon. Where the hell are we? Elias took a deep breath, forcing calm. We follow procedure. Maintain orientation, maintain power, maintain life support. We are trained for contingencies. We do not panic. But panic was spreading nonetheless. Subtle tremors ran through the cabin, so slight they might have been imagined, but enough to set nerves on edge. Lights flickered, panels glowed unevenly, and Ariadne, the ship's AI, began running recursive diagnostics. Unknown energy field detected, Ariadne intoned. Spatial interference causing minor temporal distortions. Navigation matrices affected. Communication disrupted. Unable to compensate fully. Temporal distortions? Marcus repeated, staring at the AI's console. You mean, time is bending? Not time as in clocks, Ariadne clarified. Parameters indicate displacement relative to standard Earth orbit and gravitational calculations. Unknown origin. Effect on trajectory nonlinear. Cannot reconcile with known physics. Naomi pinched the bridge of her nose, her mind racing. It's like something pulled us slightly out of reality. Not the Earth we know, but a variant. Elias looked at her sharply. A variant? Something shifted, she said. Not time travel, not exactly. But space, reality, something's different. Very slightly. Just enough to throw everything off. Marcus slammed a fist against the console. So we're lost? Completely? Houston can't track us, we can't communicate, and Ariadne can't figure out where we are. Elias didn't answer immediately. He focused on the trajectory calculations, attempting to adjust for unknown variables. Every recalculation produced a different result, none matching Earth's expected location. The pull of gravity felt off, subtle but undeniable. The familiar pattern of stars outside the viewport seemed just slightly shifted, constellations misaligned by fractions of degrees. Leo tried the comm link one last time. Static filled the cabin, then a faint, garbled fragment. A word or two from Houston. Then silence. Elias exhaled. We are returning, he said quietly. We will land, regardless of what, or where, we are. Focus. Procedure. That is all we have. But deep inside, even he could feel it. The universe had shifted in some imperceptible, impossible way. And whatever lay ahead, whether Earth as they knew it, or something else entirely, would not be waiting for them as it should. The anomaly had begun, subtle, silent, and invisible, bending reality around them. Odyssey 9 was no longer just returning from the moon. It was traveling into the unknown. In the cold void between the moon and Earth, Odyssey 9 drifted through darkness as if suspended in an invisible web. Instruments flickered unpredictably, displaying contradictory readings that made Marcus Vale's head spin. Thruster vectors indicated they should already be within Earth's transfer corridor, yet the planet they expected to see remained stubbornly distant, obscured by the same strange haze Naomi had noticed on the moon. On board, tension ran high. Elias Mercer sat rigid in the commander's seat, jaw clenched, fingers tapping on the armrest. The usual hum of the life support systems and the low vibration of the engines were no longer comforting. They were a reminder of how alone they were. Trajectory is still off, Marcus muttered, scanning the screens. Even with Ariadne compensating, the vectors don't match expected orbital calculations. It's impossible. Tara Singh's hands moved rapidly over her console, adjusting recalibration protocols for the autopilot and orbital thrusters. Every calculation is showing deviation, she admitted. Something is shifting space around us. It's like the universe itself isn't lining up properly. Naomi Chen leaned over the spectrometer readout, tracing fluctuating light patterns with growing concern. It's not just the trajectory. The electromagnetic fields, radiation readings, they're all slightly different. I can't explain it, but it's consistent. Something changed us, our environment. It's subtle, but undeniable. Leo Hartman frantically attempted comms again, tapping into every available frequency. "I've tried every satellite, every relay channel," he said, voice tight. "Nothing. Houston can't hear us, and I can't ping the satellites either. It's like we're off the grid. Completely invisible." Elias leaned back, closing his eyes for a moment. The hum of the ship, once familiar, now sounded alien. "Everyone, focus. We maintain systems, maintain life support, and monitor trajectories. We do what we can. Panic solves nothing." But the cabin had already begun to vibrate with quiet tension. The stars outside the viewport appeared subtly altered, patterns off by tiny fractions. Constellations shifted like a cosmic kaleidoscope. Even the moon, fading behind them, seemed wrong. Its craters were familiar, yet their proportions didn't match any memory or simulation. Marcus rubbed his eyes. "We're not in the right space," he said softly. "Whatever this is, we're missing. Not just from Houston, not just from Earth. We're missing from the universe we know." Naomi swallowed, tracing a light fluctuation across her spectrometer. "It's a multiverse effect," she whispered. "Not a time warp. Not parallel Earth nearby. Something shifted us into a version of reality where the parameters aren't aligned. The laws of physics aren't broken, they're just slightly different." Tara's fingers hesitated over the console. "We've trained for contingencies. Solar flares, micrometeoroids, radiation bursts, not this. There's nothing in the manual for something like this." Outside the viewport, the Earth should have grown steadily, the blue and green marble drawing closer with every maneuver. Instead, a faint glow appeared, a distorted, irregular shape, a planet-like object, but not the Earth they knew. It lacked recognizable continents, the oceans were muted, the atmosphere tinged in unusual hues. A strange, almost primal energy seemed to radiate from it, pulsing faintly against the darkness of space. Leo froze. "That can't be right. That's not Earth." Elias leaned forward, gripping the armrest. "Focus. Identify it. We will still land. We have to land, regardless of what's there. Our procedures haven't changed. Only the destination has." Tara input the new coordinates, her fingers trembling slightly. "I can attempt a controlled descent, but I can't guarantee it matches our system's calibration. The planet's gravity appears slightly off. We'll need to compensate for unknown variables." Naomi's voice was quiet but firm. "It's still habitable, though. Atmosphere, surface pressure, radiation levels, all within tolerable limits. Life exists here, but it's not ours." Marcus let out a short laugh, the sound hollow in the cabin. "Great. So we're going to land on an Earth where humans never existed?" Naomi nodded grimly. "Exactly. And that means there's no rescue, no infrastructure, no communication. We are completely on our own." Elias exhaled slowly, suppressing rising panic. "Then we proceed. Procedure, discipline, and observation. That is all we have. Focus on what we can control. The rest." He trailed off, letting the thought hang in the cabin like a shadow. Outside, faint shapes moved across the alien landscape below. Vegetation, oddly colored and shaped, waved gently in winds they could barely perceive. Strange, animal-like silhouettes moved with curious caution. Nothing immediately hostile, but unmistakably alive. The faint pulse Naomi had first noted on the moon now seemed to resonate from the planet itself, a heartbeat in the soil, an echo in the atmosphere. Leo tapped the comm panel again, almost in desperation. "Still nothing," he said. "Not a ping, not a trace. If we survive the landing, we're invisible to anyone on the Earth we know." Marcus's hands tightened on the controls. "Then survival is all that matters. Forget protocol. We land, we assess, and we figure out how to exist in a world humans never reached." Tara ran through simulations of descent sequences, adjusting for variable gravity and irregular surface topology. The AI, Ariadne, offered suggestions in calm, measured tones, but even it hesitated over unknown physics variables. The crew sat in tense silence as the alien planet grew closer. Earth, the familiar home they had left, was fading into a distant star among millions. The moon, behind them, seemed almost mournful, a gray sentinel marking their irreversible departure from what they knew. Elias broke the silence. "We are explorers. We always have been. And now, our exploration begins in earnest. Prepare for descent. Focus on the data, the instruments, and each other. We may be the first humans on a world where no humans have ever been. And if we fail..." He didn't finish the thought. No one needed him to. The gravity of the situation was suffocating but undeniable. The pulse from the planet below intensified subtly, almost imperceptibly, like a rhythm syncing with the ship's own systems. Instruments began fluctuating again, lights dimming and brightening with quiet irregularity. Ariadne noted the change. "Energy field interference increasing," the AI reported. Unknown planetary variables detected. Descent may require manual override. Probability of safe landing within acceptable risk margin, 67%. Naomi closed her eyes for a moment, the hum of the ship vibrating through her chest. She could feel it now, not just the pulse, but the weight of what they had crossed, the threshold into a reality where humanity had never existed. This was no simulation. No training prepared them for this. They were utterly alone, the last humans known to the universe, about to step onto a planet that belonged to evolution, and no one else. Elias's voice cut through the tension, sharp, unwavering. We will land, we will observe, and we will survive. That is our mission. That is all that matters. And outside, the alien world awaited, strange and silent, its heartbeat echoing in the bones of the ship, and soon, in the hearts of the crew who would have to learn to live in its embrace, or die trying. Odyssey 9 descended through the strange, muted atmosphere of the planet that had replaced their Earth. The autopilot struggled to reconcile gravity variations, turbulence, and the uneven pull of an unfamiliar magnetic field. The ship shuddered, thrusters firing in small bursts to maintain stability. Inside, the crew gripped their consoles, eyes darting between screens and viewport, hearts hammering with anticipation and fear. Elias Mercer remained composed, jaw tight, voice calm. Steady. Stick to procedures. Adjust thrusters gradually. Monitor everything. Nothing in training can fully prepare us for this, but focus on what we can control. Marcus Vale's knuckles widened around the control handles. It's beautiful and terrifying. Look at that landscape. Forest stretching further than any Earth jungle, rivers winding in impossible curves, mountains with shapes that shouldn't exist. Everything is alive, but different. Colors, the flora. Everything is strange. Naomi Chen's hand hovered over her spectrometer, fingers twitching nervously. Spectral analysis shows oxygen levels compatible with our systems, though slightly lower than Earth. Radiation is stable, atmospheric pressure within safe limits. Life forms are abundant, but genetically, nothing we recognize. Evolution has taken an entirely different path here. No humans, no primates, no mammals like ours in early evolutionary stages. Terrace Singh ran through the final descent calculations, adjusting thrusters for the last kilometers. We're approaching the designated landing site. Terrain appears flat, but there are subtle undulations and small ridges. Manual override may be necessary. The planet below seemed almost a shimmer. Rivers glinted with unnatural colors, flora glowed faintly in certain patches, and small creatures, unlike anything seen on Earth, moved with curiosity and caution. Ariadne, the ship's AI, reported minor atmospheric turbulence but otherwise stable conditions. Prepare for landing, Elias said. Marcus, you handle thrusters. Tara, assist with manual adjustments. Naomi and Leo, prep the EVA suits and all sensors. We step outside carefully and slowly. Document everything. The ship touched down gently on a plateau of reddish soil, the engines kicking up faint clouds of dust tinged with unfamiliar minerals. A hush fell over the crew, broken only by the low hum of the ship's internal systems and the quiet settling of alien dust outside. Elias opened the hatch first, the seal releasing with a hiss. The ramp extended, landing firmly on the strange surface. He paused, looking at the world beyond the viewport, a mixture of awe and apprehension pressing against him. First human step, he murmured. On a planet no human has ever seen. He descended carefully, boots crunching against the unfamiliar soil. The dust had a slight sheen, almost metallic in parts, catching the diffused light of the alien sun. Each step stirred tiny motes that floated briefly before settling. Naomi followed closely, scanning the air, soil, and horizon with her instruments. Life is everywhere, Naomi said quietly. Creatures moving in patterns we've never catalogued. Plants, trees, or whatever these organisms are, they're actively interacting with the environment in ways that suggest advanced adaptation. But no predators like ours, no primates, no humanoid forms. This Earth evolved without humans. Marcus stepped off the ramp, eyes scanning the horizon. Everything is alive, and none of it has a concept of us. We are completely alien here. Completely alone. Tara knelt to collect soil samples. The granules were slightly heavier than lunar dust, rich with minerals, yet oddly soft beneath her gloved fingers. She took care not to disturb the alien microflora, if microflora even existed in familiar terms. Chemical composition is unique, she murmured. This soil could support plants from Earth, maybe even crops, but it's almost like we're starting fresh. The crew spread out cautiously, maintaining communication via short-range channels inside the ship's range. Small creatures, insect-like but much larger than anything on Earth, scuttled across the surface. They emitted faint bioluminescent pulses, their exoskeletons reflecting sunlight in glimmers of teal and violet. Some paused, seeming to regard the crew with curiosity, but none approached too closely. Elias motioned everyone to regroup. Observation first. Assessment second. Interaction only if absolutely necessary. Document everything. Naomi crouched near a grove of strange vegetation. The plants, or organisms that behaved like plants, reacted subtly to her presence, their leaves shifting in a way that suggested awareness. She ran a series of spectrometer readings, noting unusual energy signatures. It's like the environment is interconnected, almost sentient in a very subtle way. Not conscious but reactive. The moon's pulse, it's here too, stronger. Something about this planet resonates with us, or at least with life as we perceive it. Marcus looked toward a ridge, where shadowed forms moved in unison, herd-like, yet nothing he recognized. We need to stay cautious. None of this is hostile, but we have no idea how these organisms might react if provoked, or if we interfere. Leo, monitoring environmental sensors from the ship, frowned. Atmosphere is breathable for now, but composition varies slightly over the plateau. Oxygen dips, CO2 rises in patterns that don't match Earth norms. We'll need masks if we stay too long in one area. Elias nodded. Understood. Keep logging. Prepare for extended EVA if necessary, but rotate shifts. We need continuous observation without overexposure. The first night fell quickly, the alien sky glowing with hues that Earth had never seen. Twin moons, or moon-like satellites, hung low on the horizon, casting dim reflections across the landscape. Bioluminescent flora and fauna pulsed softly, a natural illumination that created shifting patterns of light across the plateau. Elias stood at the edge of the landing site, looking across the alien world. This is it, he said softly. We are the first humans on a planet without humans. We are explorers, yes, but also witnesses to something far larger than any of us imagined. We must survive here, understand this place, and adapt. There is no going back. Naomi looked up at the strange twin moons, her voice barely a whisper. And yet, we're not alone. The planet itself, it's aware. In some way, it's observing us. Not maliciously, not benevolently, just aware. Marcus laughed nervously. Well, if the planet's alive, we might as well start making friends. I hope it likes humans. Tara adjusted her instruments, scanning the alien vegetation. We can learn a lot here. The moon anomaly, the shift in reality, it's all connected. This is bigger than just a mission. We may be the first humans to understand a universe that works differently from the one we know. Elias motioned everyone back toward the ship. Tomorrow we explore further, but tonight we maintain the base, monitor conditions, and ensure the ship is ready for any scenario. We have crossed a threshold, and nothing we've trained for can fully prepare us for what comes next. As the crew settled near the lander for their first night, a subtle pulse thrummed through the planet's surface, echoing faintly in their bones. It was the same pulse Naomi had felt on the moon, amplified now across this strange, untouched Earth. The planet itself seemed to breathe, observe, and wait, patient, indifferent, and profoundly ancient. And in that quiet awareness, the crew realized the enormity of their situation. They were the last humans, on a world where humans had never existed, with only each other to navigate the mysteries and dangers that awaited. The alien sun rose slowly, casting long, muted shadows across the plateau. Odyssey 9 hummed quietly, its systems recording every movement, every environmental fluctuation. Outside, the world stirred. Vegetation shifted subtly, creatures moved with silent deliberation, and the pulse Naomi had first felt on the moon now resonated clearly through the soil, the air, and even their bones. It was as though the planet itself were alive, observing them, testing them. Elias Mercer gathered the crew around the ship's exterior, the sunlight glinting off their visors. We survived the landing, he said. Now we survive here. That means food, water, shelter, and observation. Everything else is secondary. Marcus Vale rubbed his temples. Food? Water? We've got supplies for maybe a week, but this planet isn't exactly selling vending machines. Naomi crouched near a cluster of strange plants, spectrometer in hand. Atmosphere is breathable, water is chemically compatible, but we'll need to purify it. Plants, some are edible, but there's a high risk factor. Unknown biochemistry. We can't just eat anything. Tara Singh adjusted the portable environmental scanner. We need to create a base perimeter around the ship. Shelter, yes, but also safety. These creatures, whatever they are, they're intelligent enough to observe. Some may be neutral, but some may react unpredictably. Elias nodded. Start with water and shelter. Leo, help Naomi with environmental scans. Tara, Marcus, set up perimeter barriers. We need to ensure the landing site is safe while we assess the broader region. The crew spread out. Naomi and Leo collected water samples from a nearby river, running chemical analysis and microbial tests. The water was slightly acidic compared to Earth norms, but filtration systems removed contaminants effectively. They stored several portable tanks for long-term use. Marcus and Tara constructed a basic shelter using deployable modules from the ship and indigenous materials. The panels were reinforced with metal supports and partially buried in soil to anchor them against alien winds. Trees, or their equivalent, shifted nearby, bioluminescent veins glowing faintly, as though watching the crew's activity. Every creature we encounter is catalogued, Tara muttered, scanning the environment. Some are herbivorous, some unpredictable. We don't know which are territorial, which are curious. We proceed cautiously. Elias oversaw the operation, stepping outside briefly to mark survey points and take soil readings. He noticed small footprints in the soft soil near the landing site, delicate, three-toed impressions that led away into the alien forest. Nothing approached, but the tracks suggested a nearby population, cautious yet present. Naomi crouched beside him, scanning the tracks with a handheld device. They're intelligent enough to avoid larger organisms, or us. Not aggressive, but observant. They might even be cooperative, in a way we can't comprehend. Or they might be predators in waiting. We won't know until we study them. Marcus exhaled sharply. So we're basically in a strange world, surrounded by unknown species, figuring out if they'll eat us or watch us like ants. Great. Focus, Elias said firmly. We don't have time for fear. Observation first, survival second, adaptation third. We document everything. Every plant, every animal, every anomaly. That's how we survive. By mid-morning, the crew had established the perimeter and functional shelter. Portable solar panels were adjusted to align with the alien sun's trajectory. Life support systems were reinforced with the ship's resources, and water purification units were operational. Naomi continued cataloging flora, taking note of which specimens could potentially serve as nutrition or medicinal aid. Some of these plants have amino acids similar to Earth vegetation, she said, but proteins are highly divergent. Edibility is uncertain. We'll need to run biochemical assays before consuming anything. Marcus groaned. So, we eat alien salad and hope it doesn't kill us. Perfect. Elias ignored the sarcasm. Safety first. We cannot risk poisoning ourselves. Survival isn't about taste, it's about staying alive long enough to learn. The afternoon brought their first close encounter. A herd of quadrupedal creatures emerged from a forested area near the river. They resembled deer in shape but were larger, with elongated limbs and patterned hide that shifted colors slightly as they moved. Their heads ended in triangular plates, each with sensory nodes glimmering faintly. They observed the crew with what could only be described as intelligent curiosity, maintaining a cautious distance. Naomi's voice trembled slightly with excitement. They're sentient enough to recognize us as different. They're studying us and the environment. This is incredible. Marcus tightened his hands around a scanning rifle, though it was set to stun. They don't look aggressive, but one misstep and who knows? Elias raised a hand. No provocation. We watch, we record, we learn. Nothing more. Move slowly, speak quietly, and maintain a perimeter. The creatures lingered for an hour, shifting slowly back into the forest. Every movement was calculated, almost ceremonial, as if they were teaching the planet itself to coexist with outsiders. The crew documented everything: their gait, skin patterns, interaction with flora, and subtle communication behaviors. As night fell, the bioluminescent landscape transformed into a soft glow, illuminating the plateau in eerie patterns. Naomi noted subtle pulses in plant life that seemed to correspond with the heartbeat of the quadrupedal herd. Even at rest, the planet vibrated with life, an ecosystem both familiar and utterly alien. Elias gathered the crew around a small table inside the shelter. Day 1 survival checklist completed. Water, shelter, observation, initial cataloging. Tomorrow, we extend our perimeter. Explore the surrounding area carefully, but we stay close to the ship. We need to understand this world before we act. Tara nodded. Sensors indicate stable conditions for the night. Temperature and atmospheric pressure within tolerable range. Radiation minimal. No immediate threats detected, but we remain vigilant. Marcus slumped into a chair, staring at the viewport. I keep thinking about Earth. Our Earth. And now, it's gone. Or at least, unreachable. This place, it's amazing, yes, but also, alien in every sense. Survival is no longer a simulation. Naomi glanced at him, expression grave. Exactly. And that's the truth we need to accept. No humans, no infrastructure, no rescue. We are the last of our kind in this reality. Our survival depends entirely on us, and on how well we understand this planet. Leo, typing furiously on his console, added, all systems logged. Data transmitted to ship storage. Environmental variables, biological observations, planetary anomalies, every detail preserved. If we survive, we'll have unprecedented knowledge of an alternate Earth. Elias looked out over the plateau, shadows stretching across alien soil. Survival is the first step. Understanding comes next. Adaptation, eventually. But we start here, with food, water, shelter, and observation. And tomorrow, we push further. We discover what it means to exist in a world without humans, and we survive, because we must. Outside, the planet pulsed with quiet, subtle rhythm, as if acknowledging the crew's presence. It was not hostile, not friendly, merely aware. And as they settled into their first night on this alien Earth, each crew member felt the enormity of what they had crossed. They were explorers on a planet untouched by humanity, and the lessons ahead would be harsh, unforgiving, and absolute. The first night was quiet, but alive. Every rustle, every glow, every vibration reminded them that survival here was not just a challenge of the body, but of perception, understanding, and respect for a world that had never needed humans to exist. The sun had barely risen when the crew of Odyssey 9 stepped out of their makeshift shelter. Night had brought little in the way of disturbance, though the subtle pulses of the planet's life, soft tremors beneath the soil, flickers of bioluminescence, never ceased. Every step they took on the alien soil was an act of observation, caution, and discovery. Elias Mercer surveyed the surrounding plateau. "Our first priority today is to map the immediate surroundings," he said. "Document creatures, track behavior, and ensure we don't provoke anything we can't handle. Naomi, you lead on flora and fauna assessment. Marcus, keep the perimeter. Tara, assist with sensor placement. Leo, record and catalog everything." The crew moved carefully, sensors scanning constantly. A herd of quadrupedal creatures, larger than the day before, watched them from a ridge, their triangular sensory plates glinting in the sunlight. The creatures' behavior was deliberate, almost ritualistic. They grazed in patterns that appeared designed to maximize efficiency, their heads rising at intervals to observe the crew before returning to their grazing. Naomi crouched near a stream, observing tiny, insect-like creatures flitting across the water's surface. Their wings reflected light in spectral patterns unseen on Earth, and their movements appeared coordinated, almost communicative. "These are social organisms," she murmured. "Their coordination suggests either advanced instinct or intelligence. Either way, they're aware of each other and possibly of us." Marcus frowned, scanning the plateau. "Intelligence or instinct doesn't matter if one of them decides we're prey. We keep distance, we keep sensors on, and we do not provoke." Elias nodded. "Agreed. Observation first, safety second, intervention only if absolutely necessary." As they moved further from the landing site, they encountered larger creatures, massive, bipedal beings that stood on two jointed legs, covered in layered, iridescent scales. They had elongated arms, ending in delicate, multi-jointed appendages, and heads topped with horn-like protrusions that seemed to detect vibrations in the air. They didn't approach but watched from a distance, unblinking, evaluating the crew's every move. Naomi recorded measurements, her voice barely above a whisper. "They're intelligent, possibly sapient. Their social structure is unclear, but their behavior is deliberate. Notice how they maintain distance and yet follow our trajectory. They're learning, cataloging, adapting." Marcus shivered despite the mild climate. "So, we've got alien deer, alien insects, and alien people? That's reassuring." Tara held up a hand, pointing to the bipedal creatures. "Notice their appendages. They're not built for combat, not in a predatory sense. They seem more for manipulation and interaction. That suggests they may not be hostile unless provoked, but intelligence does not equal empathy." Elias stepped forward, glancing at the horizon. "We continue documenting, but we do not engage. This is a new ecosystem, a complex hierarchy. One misstep could be catastrophic. Leo, keep cameras running. We need full coverage for data and for safety." The crew spread out slightly, maintaining visual contact. Naomi observed tiny, coral-like structures near the riverbed that pulsed in rhythm with the planet's subtle heartbeat. "These organisms may serve as communication nodes," she speculated. "Or they could be part of the ecosystem's neural network. Whatever it is, it's connected to everything: flora, fauna, soil, even the river. There's a level of integration here we've never seen on Earth." Marcus muttered, "I feel like we've wandered into a planetary brain. And we're the ants." Suddenly, movement caught Elias' eye. A larger predator-like creature emerged from the treeline. It moved with fluid grace, four muscular limbs supporting a sleek, armored body. Its head was narrow, elongated, with eyes positioned to track both horizontal and vertical movement. It sniffed the air, observing the crew without immediate aggression. "Hold position," Elias ordered. "Do not engage." Naomi scanned the creature. Predatory, but not immediately hostile. It's evaluating us. Every movement we make is being catalogued. It may be testing, or it may simply be curious. Marcus clenched his jaw. Curiosity with that size, yeah, feels safe. The predator lingered for several minutes, pacing carefully around the group. Then, as if satisfied with its observations, it retreated into the forest, leaving only the faint disturbance of soil and vegetation. The crew exhaled collectively. Tara glanced at the sensors. Environmental data shows elevated bioelectric activity where the predator moved. The ecosystem reacts to movement in real time. It's adaptive, aware, and possibly predictive. Elias nodded. That's the key. This planet isn't passive. Everything is in communication, subtly, constantly. Our survival depends on understanding, not just observing, but integrating into the rules of this ecosystem without disrupting it. The crew continued their exploration, cautiously mapping flora, fauna, and terrain. They observed patterns in the herds of quadrupeds, tracked smaller insectoid creatures, and noted energy pulses emanating from fungal-like organisms. Everything seemed to operate under a shared rhythm, a subtle intelligence coordinating life across the planet. By late afternoon, Naomi discovered evidence of structures that suggested intelligence beyond instinct. Piles of mineral formations arranged with regularity, small clearings with objects placed deliberately, and faint markings etched into rocks. They were subtle, almost invisible, yet unmistakable. Signs of cognition, perhaps even rudimentary civilization. Elias studied the formations. We are not alone in terms of awareness. There is structure, planning, possibly culture. We proceed with extreme caution. Any contact must be minimal. We cannot risk confrontation or contamination. As night fell, the alien world transformed. Bioluminescence intensified, signaling nocturnal activity. The bipedal creatures observed from a distance, their forms silhouetted against glowing flora. Predators moved silently, hunting or patrolling. The smaller insectoids pulsed in coordinated waves, reflecting the planet's heartbeat back to the crew in a subtle, almost musical rhythm. Inside the shelter, the crew debriefed. We are learning, Elias said. Every observation teaches us something. But every step is also a risk. We are on a planet that functions as a single, integrated organism. The creatures are its expression, its agents. We are outsiders. We must tread lightly. Marcus, exhausted, rubbed his eyes. I keep thinking about our real Earth. The one with humans, cities, everything familiar. And now, nothing like that exists here. It's beautiful, but survival isn't just about living. It's about understanding this world enough to not get killed by it. Naomi added quietly, and maybe learning enough to live alongside it. It's intelligent, adaptive. We can survive if we respect it. If we don't, we die. Simple as that. Tara monitored the perimeter. Sensors show continued activity throughout the night. We may get closer tomorrow to observe the bipedal creature's behavior in more detail. But we maintain distance. Observation, not interference. That is our rule. Elias looked out through the viewport at the alien plateau. Shadows shifted, glowing patterns danced across the terrain, and creatures moved silently in the bioluminescent light. The planet was alive in ways humans had never imagined, its intelligence expressed not in language, but in rhythm, interaction, and adaptation. He turned to the crew. We are explorers in a world without humans. We are outsiders, observers, and survivors. If we understand this ecosystem, we can survive. If we fail to respect it, we will not. And as the alien night deepened, the crew of Odyssey 9 understood the stark reality. This Earth was a place where evolution had continued without humanity, where intelligence and life were distributed across species and the planet itself, and where the margin for error was vanishingly small. Their survival depended not on technology alone, but on perception, patience, and humility. The morning light on the alien plateau was different this time. It had a heavier quality, as if the sun itself carried a weight of awareness. Elias Mercer watched from the viewport of Odyssey 9, noting how subtle changes in the environment hinted that the planet was responding to their presence. Do you feel that? Naomi asked quietly, scanning the surrounding flora with her instruments. The patterns are different today. The bioluminescence, it's pulsing in response to our activity. Marcus rubbed his arms. So, we're walking into a giant planetary mood swing. Great. Nothing can go wrong with that. Elias held up a hand. Stay focused. We're observing, recording, and analyzing. We don't understand the full scope yet, but it's clear the planet is aware, reactive. We must proceed carefully. Tara Singh monitored the sensors. Temperature, humidity, and bioelectric readings have fluctuated subtly overnight. The predators we observed yesterday are moving in synchronized patterns, almost like patrols. The quadrupeds have altered grazing patterns too. It's as if the ecosystem is adjusting to us, mapping us, predicting us. Leo Hartman frowned at his console. The energy pulse Naomi detected on the moon and again at landing, it's stronger here, more coordinated. The planet seems to resonate with life forms, including us. Every step we take, every movement, nothing goes unnoticed. The crew suited up and stepped out carefully, keeping within a safe distance of the ship. The alien ground underfoot felt alive, subtle vibrations traveling up through their boots. Naomi examined the flora, noting that many of the plants seemed to orient themselves toward the crew's movements, subtly shifting their bioluminescent veins. "It's observing us," she said softly. Not aggressively, not benignly, just noticing, cataloging, adjusting. "We're a variable in its ecosystem now." As they moved further from the landing site, strange phenomena began to occur. Small rock formations that had been stable during the day before now shifted slightly, almost imperceptibly, altering paths and clearings. Trees or tree-like organisms bent slightly, following their movements. The air carried faint resonances, like subtle vibrations designed to affect balance or perception. Marcus stopped abruptly. "Are the rocks moving? Or am I hallucinating?" Elias knelt, examining the formations. "Not hallucination. Subtle tectonic micro-adjustments? Perhaps, but coordinated. The pattern is too deliberate to be random. The planet is responding to us, Marcus. We are influencing it merely by existing here." Terra's sensors flared. Energy fields are spiking near the forest line. The bipedal creatures we observed before, they've repositioned themselves in response. Almost like sentinels. Naomi adjusted her readings. "It's subtle, but the ecosystem is actively creating scenarios to test us. Observing reactions, pushing boundaries, seeing how we adapt. We're no longer simply explorers, we're participants in an ongoing planetary experiment." The crew paused near a small ridge, looking down at a valley filled with luminescent flora and creatures moving in complex, coordinated patterns. A herd of quadrupeds grazed in formation, while smaller predators stalked carefully around the edges, maintaining constant vigilance. Above, the bipedal creatures shifted positions silently, their elongated limbs and multi-jointed appendages moving with deliberate precision. Elias whispered, "We need to maintain distance. Observation only. Any interference could trigger unintended consequences." But the planet wasn't waiting for permission. A low hum, almost imperceptible at first, vibrated through the soil beneath their feet. The hum grew, a harmonic resonance synchronized with the movement of the creatures, the sway of the flora, even the air currents. The crew felt it in their chests, a subtle, constant reminder that they were being watched and tested. Suddenly, one of the bipedal creatures descended into the valley, its movements deliberate, almost ceremonial. The quadrupeds and smaller predators adjusted positions immediately, maintaining distance but remaining alert. Naomi's eyes widened. "It's a demonstration. The planet, or its sentient life, is orchestrating this. It's showing us behavior, hierarchy, interaction. It's teaching us something." Marcus swallowed hard. "Teaching humans, huh? I feel like we're in kindergarten, and the teacher is 6 times bigger than us." Terra scanned the area. "Notice how every movement we make corresponds to adjustments in the ecosystem. The predator stalks slower, the quadrupeds shift grazing patterns, and the flora pulses more intensely. We are integrated into their system, whether we want to be or not." Elias motioned the team back toward higher ground, observing carefully. "Document everything. This is an opportunity to understand the structure of life on this planet. But stay cautious. The complexity is beyond anything we've trained for. A misstep could trigger aggression or disruption." As they moved, the valley seemed to shift. Rocks subtly rearranged themselves, flora pulsed in patterns, and predators adjusted positions, all responding in real time to the crew's presence. It was as if the planet itself were a conductor, orchestrating every movement, every interaction. Leo broke the silence. "We are part of a living system. It's not just creatures reacting, it's the ecosystem as a whole. From the soil to the skies, everything is interlinked. Every choice we make has consequences we cannot fully predict." Naomi added, "And yet, there's an elegance to it. It's not hostile, not yet. But we're clearly on trial. How we behave, how we observe, how we adapt, that's being monitored. The planet responds to intelligence, not strength. It tests understanding." The hum beneath their feet intensified briefly, almost like applause or acknowledgement. The quadrupeds shifted their grazing patterns, the predators paused mid-step, and the bipedal creature in the valley raised a multi-jointed appendage, as if signaling. Marcus shivered. "I think it just waved at us." Elias studied the creature carefully. "Not a greeting, Marcus. Assessment. Recognition. We're being acknowledged, but not accepted yet." We proceed carefully. The day ended with careful retreat to the landing site. The crew debriefed inside the shelter, documenting every observation. Naomi's voice was thoughtful. "This planet isn't simply alive, it's intelligent. It doesn't need humans to function. It responds, adapts, and tests. Our survival depends on understanding the rules it follows, the rhythms it maintains, and the intelligence it expresses through every organism. Tara nodded. Tomorrow we extend observation further. We must learn patterns, not just encounter creatures. Food, water, shelter, we understand. But now, comprehension is survival. Elias concluded, the planet responds. We've seen it. Every move, every choice, every step alters the ecosystem. Respect it. Observe it. Adapt to it. We are outsiders in a world that doesn't need us. That is the lesson we must carry forward. Understanding comes first. Survival comes second. And if we fail to heed the planet's tests. He didn't finish. The pause was enough. Outside, the alien night shimmered with subtle light. Bioluminescent patterns danced across the plateau and valley, synchronized with the pulse of the planet itself. The bipedal sentinels watched from a distance. Predators prowled silently, and the quadrupeds grazed in careful harmony. The planet was alive, aware, and patient. And for the crew of Odyssey 9, the lesson was clear. They had crossed into a reality where humans were irrelevant, where survival depended on perception, humility, and the ability to adapt to a world that was observing and responding to every move they made. The alien sun rose in pale, shifting hues, casting long shadows across the plateau where Odyssey 9 had landed. For the crew, each day felt both familiar and utterly alien. They were no longer just explorers, they were survivors, witnesses, and students in a world that had evolved without humans. Elias Mercer stepped outside. First, boots crunching against the strange soil. The bioluminescent plants glimmered faintly even in the early light, as if acknowledging his presence. Every step felt measured, deliberate, conscious. He had long since learned that the planet was not just alive, it was intelligent, responsive, patient, and subtly judgmental. Naomi Chen emerged next, instruments in hand, scanning the horizon. She paused to examine a cluster of flora that had shifted overnight, forming patterns she recognized as intentional. It's communicating, she murmured. Not with words, but with structure, rhythm, and motion. Everything here is part of a larger pattern we have yet to understand. Marcus Vale rubbed his eyes, taking in the landscape. I keep waiting for something to attack. Something to prove this isn't just some weird zoo we're trapped in. But it's calm, almost peaceful. Too peaceful, if you ask me. Elias shook his head. Peaceful doesn't mean safe. It means the planet doesn't need to act. We do. Survival here depends on respect, observation, and adaptation. Remember that. Tara Singh adjusted the portable sensors around the landing site, ensuring that the perimeter was secure. All readings are stable. Water and soil continue to support life compatible with us. We've begun understanding patterns of the creatures, grazing routes, predator movements, and behavioral rhythms. But this is only the start. The planet adapts, always. Leo Hartman monitored the internal ship logs. Every observation from the past week shows that the planet isn't static. It evolves dynamically. Our presence alone alters the ecosystem subtly. We are not invaders. We are variables, and the planet treats us as such. The crew moved carefully, cataloging, mapping, and observing. They had begun to understand some of the rhythms. When quadrupeds grazed, when predators patrolled, how bioluminescence pulsed, and how the bipedal sentinels maintained a watchful presence. Even the flora responded to human presence, subtly adjusting orientation, movement, and energy output. Naomi knelt to take soil samples. Nutrient cycles here are different. There's no human contamination, no agricultural interference, yet everything is perfectly balanced. If we disrupt it too much, it could react negatively. We need to tread lightly. Marcus glanced nervously at the forest line. So, we live here, eat here, breathe here, and hope nothing bigger than us decides we're a problem. Got it. Survival Handbook. Edition 1. Elias ignored the sarcasm. Focus on learning. The planet tests intelligence, adaptability, and observation, not strength. That is how we survive. That is how we thrive. By mid-morning, they had expanded the perimeter and constructed more permanent shelter modules. Panels harvested from the ship were combined with indigenous materials in a careful blend of technology and adaptation. Each step of construction was documented, measured, and executed to minimize disruption. The crew had realized that conventional methods of building were ineffective. The planet responded to environmental stressors, adjusting subtle elements, moving soil, shifting flora, and even influencing small animals. Naomi paused to analyze a cluster of bipedal sentinels observing from a distance. They seem to understand our routines now. Not friendly, not hostile, but aware. They've learned our movements, just as we've learned theirs. This is as close to a social contract as we're going to get here. Marcus muttered, so basically, we have roommates. Giant, alien, watchful roommates who don't speak. Tara smirked. At least they're predictable if you respect the rules. As the day progressed, the crew began establishing routines: water collection, food experiments, environmental monitoring, and extended observation missions. Each step reinforced their role not as masters of this world, but as guests, carefully negotiating coexistence with a system far larger and more intelligent than themselves. Elias convened the crew near the edge of the plateau at sunset. "We have survived our first week. We've observed, catalogued, and adapted. But make no mistake, this is not a temporary situation. We are trapped here. Earth, our Earth, is lost to us. We can't communicate with it. We can't return. Our survival and understanding depends on living fully in this reality." Naomi's voice was soft but firm. "We've seen intelligence in every corner of this planet. Not human intelligence, not the way we understand it, but a form of consciousness that permeates every organism. It's a living system, and we are a part of it now. Not masters, not conquerors. Students." Marcus sighed. "I thought I signed up to explore, not to go to school forever. But it's kind of humbling. And terrifying." Tara nodded. "Adaptation is everything. We've learned food sources, water safety, patterns of creatures, shelter techniques. Every day we survive is a step forward. Every misstep could be fatal." Elias looked across the plateau, the alien forest stretching endlessly, rivers glinting with strange colors, mountains rising jaggedly in the distance. "Tomorrow, we continue exploration. We expand our knowledge, establish secure routines, and continue documenting the ecosystem. We live not just to survive, but to understand. That is our purpose here. That is the only way we can exist in a world that evolved without humans." The crew settled inside their partially constructed shelters as the alien night fell. Bioluminescent flora glowed softly, illuminating their new home. Outside, quadrupeds grazed cautiously, predators patrolled silently, and bipedal sentinels watched from the edges. The planet pulsed with subtle awareness, a constant reminder that they were being observed and evaluated. Naomi whispered as she reviewed data on her console, "We've learned a lot, but the planet still surprises us. Every day brings new patterns, new behaviors, new challenges. We are not passive here. We influence this world just by existing." Marcus, lying on a cot, stared at the glowing ceiling of the shelter. "So, humans are basically an anomaly here. The planet evolved without us. And now we're a footnote, trying not to mess everything up." Elias joined him, voice calm but resolute. "We are the first humans on this Earth, and perhaps the last in this reality. We are guests, observers, and survivors. The planet doesn't need us, but we need it. Understanding is survival, and survival is our responsibility. We exist here because we have no choice. That is our reality now." The crew drifted into an uneasy sleep, minds racing with the enormity of their situation. Outside, the alien night pulsed gently, as if acknowledging their presence. Life moved in patterns humans could barely comprehend, creatures monitored silently, and the ecosystem adjusted subtly, harmoniously. The planet was alive, aware, patient, and eternal. For the first time, the crew understood the full weight of their predicament. They were humans in a world that had never known humans, forced to coexist with a planet and its creatures that operated by entirely different rules. Survival was no longer a matter of technology alone. It was intelligence, observation, patience, and respect. Elias stood one last time on the ramp before darkness fully claimed the plateau. "We are the last of our kind here. We will adapt, we will learn, and we will survive, because we must. There is no other option." The alien wind shifted, carrying faint pulses through the plateau. It was neither approval nor warning, but acknowledgement. The crew understood the message, simple yet profound. They were part of a living, aware system now, and their future depended on their ability to coexist with it, to respect it, and to learn its rules. And so, on this new Earth, humanity's story continued, not in cities, not in civilization, but in quiet observation, careful adaptation, and the unending quest to survive in a world where humans were never meant to exist. For the crew of Odyssey 9, the beginning of life on this planet was not a return, it was a rebirth.
I would like to thank you for watching the video to the end. To encourage us to make more videos, please like, subscribe, comment, as well as share. Check out this other video if you haven't already.